Hi Midlifers, Lee here. Just to let you know that today's episode is part one of a two-parter. Simon and I got into a conversation about last week's episode and some feedback we received from listeners. Rather than try to edit down this conversation into a normal-sized episode, we thought we'd let it spread over two full episodes. So today is part one, next week is part two. Also, because of the nature of some of the feedback we received, just to let you know that there is some content warning. At around about the 20-minute mark, things get quite explicit and potentially uncomfortable. So just to let you know that, yeah, it gets a little bit tricky. So feel free to, I don't know, skip on ahead. Anyway, on with the show.
How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm okay.
Only okay.
It's been pretty hard. It's been pretty hard times for lots of different reasons. So, not sure I want to get into that.
Oh, it's going to be a quiet podcast then.
This is a podcast in which two friends talk about the pleasures, absurdities, and imperfections of being human. I'm Simon Ellis.
And I'm Lee Miller. Welcome to Midlifing.
I mean, I have got some. I mean, there is there's the finale of the scam thing.
Let's have some finale of the scam thing.
Should I talk you through the entire? I mean, as briefly as I can.
Yes, do it.
Avid listeners will know that there was a scamming situation, and the entire story is back in February. I ordered, let's say, as we've been talking, quite a expensive collection of amount of cocaine. And I was told that it
let's not. Let's just refer to it as an item. I don't want the echelon trigger word people to start searching my house.
As some merchandise, and I was told it would arrive in April.
That does sound worse, doesn't it?
It does.
Saying some merchandise. You should just stick with a significant amount of cocaine. Going to Simon's house.
Yes.
I am straight edge, people. Carrying on, sorry.
And it was going to arrive in April, and then I had another message from from this business, very well known supplier, saying that they're having, as you know, lots of supply chain issues in the the Class A drug world, and told me that it wouldn't arrive until June, and so. And that was the story, and so because I needed this particular merchandise in June, I decided to rent some. And then thought
you decided to rent some cocaine.
Yes, exactly.
How does that work?
I don't know. And then so I arranged that, and it was quite expensive. And I was going to receive that merch on the 23rd of May, and then 2 weeks before then, not even. Just over a week before then, I had another email from the supplier, saying...
I hope everybody's like doing that thing where they've got post-it notes and pieces of paper and red string on their wall to try and follow the complexity of this.
Koza Sose. What was his name? Kaiser Soze. Kaiser Soze.
I don't think we can mention him anymore.
We
Kaiser
can't,
Soze
can
has been
we? He has. So, yes, we can't talk about the usual suspects. And saying that my original merch would arrive exactly on the same day as the rented merch. Yes, the 23rd of May.
I love that.
And so I contacted the scammers, who we realised were not scammers.
No, because you met them in a car park.
Where they had stuff in the back of their car.
Yeah.
He said, that's no problem, I'll refund you. And
oh my God, what a sweetie pie!
And so as soon as I received the original merch, I let him know, and he said, send me your account details, and the money was there within 2 hours.
Wow, so it's safe to say that you were not scammed, and perhaps we need to actually put a link to the quote-unquote scammers website in case anybody needs to rent some cocaine.
Exactly. In fact, I said to him, look, I know I haven't really officially rented anything from you, but I'd really like to leave a review because I'm really impressed.
Wow. Well, who knew?
I know.
Who knew?
Isn't it good to know? So, so yes, that is the end of the, and so I have a brand new quantity of cocaine which I've been setting up and and getting ready and
plugging cables into the back of your cocaine.
Exactly.
Making sure it has the
all the latest updates.
RAM.
the prerequisite quantity of RAM in this cocaine.
It's for ramming in your nose holes.
Oh. Yes, so yep, it's all over. I'm at the all's well that ends well.
All's end that wells. So,
you know how bad I am at getting sayings.
Yes, half a one, six a dozen of the other. So,
I've never heard that before, and I'm sure I've never said that before.
I'm sure you've never said it. No, I
half
stole
a one,
that off
six
a
a
drag
dozen
queen.
of the other.
I stole that off a drag queen called Trixie Mattel.
You've mentioned Trixie on the podcast.
Half a
before.
one, six a dozen of the other.
Is it a song?
No, it's just she just says it with a sing-song cadence. She also says, "If the Lord can lead you to it, He can lead you through it." Which I
through
find,
it.
Yeah, if the Lord can lead you to it, He can lead you through it. That was kind of pat.
I don't quite know what that means, but I can
Of course
imagine.
you do. If God puts this on your plate, you can absolutely deal with it. It's that whole nonsense of you are not given more than you can cope with, as if there is some kind of balance of
The Force.
Oh, speaking of which, did you watch Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Wow, it was pretty bad. I like some bits, but the highlight for me of Series 1, Episode 1 of Obi-Wan Kenobi, starring Ewan McGregor, I really just wanted to get that in there that I know that, was the...
Who directed it?
A woman's name? No, gone.
A woman's name, correct.
Gloria
Gloria
Estefan.
Estefan, uh-huh. She was just stood there. She went, okay, Ewan, 1, 2, 3, 4. Come on, baby, say you love me. 5, 6, 7 times.
What's the name of that song? What's the name of her big song?
Oh, there's so many. Rhythm is going to get you.
Rhythm's Gonna Get You is the one I was thinking of.
Uh-huh. I for some reason, had a Gloria Estefan CD in my car when I first... It wasn't a CD, it was a tape. When I first got my car. It might have come with the car.
You mean the car you
When I
currently
was-
got?
No,
Your
I
first
mean
car.
the car when I was 17. And it had it had all of Gloria Estefan's songs on from the late 80s. So I can sing quite a lot of them. Weirdly. And like deep
Which
cuts,
would be a
because
great episode.
Anything for you in spite of it all.
What's that? Is that Gloria Estefan?
It's a Gloria Estefan, one of her
Sounds
her
like a
ballady
musical
numbers.
number.
I think power ballads from the 1980s do sound like musical numbers, don't they?
Or it might be
And
your
I
voice.
would do
It might be your voice a little bit as
anything
well.
for love.
Yes, that's
And I won't
totally Les
do
Miserables.
that.
Is,
Okay.
Wait. So hang on. Where do
Deborah
we...
Chow was the name of
Deborah
the director,
Chow,
and I
thank
want to
you.
know what was bad about.
I think the highlights of the bads was the chase scene when Leia Organa was running away from those three men. It was just the worst bit of it.
That was
so
shit.
bad. It was
Yeah.
it was really, really bad, and I can't
That
believe
was,
they
yeah.
could even include that. Like it was.
They
just,
should have played Keystone Cops tunes
It was
over the top of it.
It was almost unwatchable. I was waiting for one of them to pratfall. I mean, it was really.
Well,
really...
one ran
Into
right
a
into a tree. It was shocking.
It was really, really, and so at that point, I was just going, "Oh wow, are they really? Is this really? Are they taking this?" Anyway.
And yet, the second episode, have you seen that?
Oh, are there more than one episode? Are they
Yeah,
all
there's
out?
2 episodes.
Oh.
No, there's 2.
Oh, I haven't watched the second episode.
There's some, well, I shall just say there is some rooftop parkour.
I'm assuming it wasn't Leia Organa doing the parkour.
No. God, we have to cut all of this out. So,
Yes, so we will cut that out. I mean, you will cut that out. I will have nothing to do with it.
you will be surprised when you listen to this on Monday.
So we've had some. Is this what we're going to talk about?
I guess so. Because we kind of, I mean, it's going to be like walking on eggshells. If you thought you couldn't talk about the stuff that's been happening this week, I really don't know how to talk about our feedback. Maybe we can start with your feedback, because you also had somebody reach out to you that I assume didn't involve a voice message, a long voice message that made me wince.
And I think it's interesting. I think this. And by the way, I haven't had permission. I asked, but I think it's okay. I think it's okay.
Well, I just want to be clear that I will not be naming any names from the voice note. And I will not even be giving any kind of global clues. I'll try to keep it as beige as possible.
So there are two parts to this, and I think it's really, really useful and really interesting. The first half, was it edited? So I just want to...
What? What does that even mean?
No,
somebody thought that was just us just talking.
No, it means you a little. I just wanted to leave it at that though, because I just thought that was.
No.
No, wait. It'll make
context.
sense. It'll make sense. Just breathe.
All right,
breathe.
Chill my boots.
Yeah, chill everything.
Chill my boots now.
Was it edited? What on earth are you talking about? Sadness, shoulders, ease at how we fall into roles. You both talk about how it affects you, but I must have missed what exactly it is. Or what we could do differently, or what are the alternatives, or why it is like that. And I think it's really instructive. I think it's really, really interesting, because I think we went from me telling a story about two women on a bus, at least this is what I think this person is talking about. We went from a story talking about two women on a bus to you saying, or one of us saying, and how do you feel about that? And I think you might have said tired, or I said tired.
I said tired, and you said, "Oh, I would have gone with."
And
sad.
I don't think we said what it is.
No, that's true. I think because we've been in this long form conversation for over a year now,
and so we knew.
And to answer the question of the questioner, yes, the episode is edited.
What he meant was that maybe the bit where the context was edited out. I think that's
the context wasn't edited out at all.
No, it's just that we didn't say it.
We just don't explain ourselves very well in a
Which is not great for podcast hosts, is it?
It's not. Are we podcast hosts? That's a good question.
We are. I mean, we don't host other
still
people.
Wear a hat? No, we don't. Do we host each other? The question is strong with this one. Okay, so was it edited? That's a good question. What is it? So perhaps, Simon, as backfill, you can say what the it was.
Wow.
Sorry, I know. That was a hard one, wasn't it?
People who haven't listened to last week's episode, the it was the very strong sense, which is overhearing two women on a bus, basically talking about a man and their entire, particularly one of them, her preoccupation with this man. And basically it was a story about everything she could possibly do to please this human being, this man, a man who was married, clearly from the things I was hearing, was not at all interested in leaving that marriage. And the it, I would say, was the sense of a woman orienting or fixing her entire being on pleasing a man, of being available and being willing to do anything in order to make this man happy, regardless of how he treated her. That's how I would sum up the it. This I'm extrapolating a lot from an overheard conversation, and maybe this listener's going, "What the fuck are you talking about? They were just talking about a man." I mean, that's one way of critiquing, I guess, what we were talking about, or what we didn't talk about.
We also then slid on to that sense of entitlement that can sit sometimes in men, and then that led us on to a conversation about Ducky Dale in Pretty in Pink, and him effectively being a sex pest. And we talked about the friend zone and that complexity in expectation and reception of emotional connection between, and we were talking specifically about in heterosexual couplings.
Yes, and I should finish because the other part of it was a conversation about Sting. And I think those questions, what could we do differently? What are the alternatives? And why is it like that? Those are massively important questions. And also, this is great. Also, didn't you listen to Pat Benatar, Madonna, Whitney Houston, Tina Turner, Joan Jett, Cyndi Lauper, Grace Jones, Stevie Nicks, Alanis Morissette, just off the top of my head? It seemed to greatly affect you, but you just left us hanging as to what it really was. I mean, Joan Jett's a fantastic example because I think of that, the song I know of her is, of course, I Love Rock and Roll. Put another dime in the jukebox, baby. Yeah. Of all these, that's perhaps Stevie Nicks, I don't know so well, but that's a song which is not about wanting a man.
No.
So, yes, I mean, Whitney Houston, I Will Always Love You, is about a song from a movie about a bodyguard, a woman being looked after and protected by a man, and that no matter what, I will always love you, right? And also, and again, I mean, I'm not sure, I don't want to get into too much, but Tina Turner, for God's sake, suffered from domestic violence.
Yeah. Also, I think probably, for sure. And the Whitney Houston song is, of course, written by Dolly Parton, and Dolly Parton wrote it for
That's right.
She wrote it for The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, the film she made, I think, in 1982 or 3 with Burt Reynolds, because it was an existing stage musical to begin with, but it needed, she felt, or the producers felt it needed punching up with some more songs, and so she put this kind of what we think of as the 11 o'clock number into the show.
Arms round waists.
And that was written specifically for that, but it was written from the perspective of a madam of a brothel.
Yeah.
Basically saying that she wasn't good enough. So a sex worker is not good enough to be in a relationship with a police officer. So I think it's safe to say that there is some deeply layered problematic narratives in relationship to that particular song, whether you put it in relationship to The Bodyguard or The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas.
But I think
Also,
I think
totally
this person's
take
points,
the point that's being made.
Exactly.
For sure.
Exactly.
For sure. Yeah. Because what we do is we
were cherry picking.
Completely.
We were cherry picking. Yeah. I mean, that's also our prerogative, frankly. I mean, that's what the world of podcasting is. It's basically dudes cherry picking.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Joe Rogan, that's us.
Yeah. And I think we're the only difference is that he's got not as many listeners as we have.
Well, not as many faithful listeners as us.
I think that's a really good point that the listener makes. And I don't really have there's no but, there's no caveat. I think there's just it's not a rejoinder, it's not a response. It's that was one set of ears receiving the conversation that we had, like, you're missing out a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and what the hell were you talking about?
Yeah.
Also, whereas Grace Jones, I'm just so glad this person mentioned Grace Jones. What, those songs, those songs were so fun. Oh my God, I love those songs.
Yeah, that is so, I had forgotten just how good a vocalist she is until I listened to her again fairly recently. And I was just, because I remember them being like really good club songs. They're really good dance tracks. But she has an incredible voice.
No, she's amazing. And definitely listeners, if you haven't really gotten to the earth of Grace Jones, I would just get in there. Crank up your Spotify and
for sure. In fact, I'm hoping that Simon is going to find the video of Grace Jones singing whilst hula hooping in her 60s.
I will definitely find that video, and it is in the show notes.
Alive.
Yeah. So thanks to this listener as well, because I think that there are holes in what we were describing, that we were assuming a whole lot of listeners, that clearly some listeners didn't need those holes filled, but this one did, and I think it's important.
And I want to ask a question now that is asked with it's not really aimed at that particular listener. It's aimed about the experience of listening.
Me. Yeah.
No, it's not aimed at you. It's aimed at the idea of listening. It's because it feels like the stuff that was unsaid between us was, couldn't be heard by that particular listener. Or I might be misrepresenting, because obviously I've not had the exchange with them. But we also got a response where it feels like the narrative that we were trying to perhaps overtly skirt rather than kind of plough through.
Yeah, we were dancing around it.
And it landed very, very heavily on one of our listeners, who sent us about a 5-minute voice message outlining exactly the kind of background noise of misogyny that men are steeped in and how it then lands on women. This was a female listener. I don't really know how to begin to frame what was said because
and she has given us permission to talk about
express
this.
permission within, and she said you can use the whole thing, which we're not, because
I mean you could beep out the
used.
names. You could beep out the names. I mean, it's pretty shocking.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think
I
we
wonder
should.
what it would be. No, I was going to say, I wonder what it would be like if we were to just drop it in here, because it is. Oh, hang about. It's really hard to work out how to.
Can I have a go?
Yeah, please.
Just because, also because I don't know this person.
Yeah.
It's basically a story in which, how I hear it. So I think that's important. How I hear it is a story of a man who's married and has a working friendship, or she thinks is a working friendship. So a friendship through work, and that they get on well. And basically, there's a point which, in the middle of the night, he calls her drunk, and then starts to voice a whole lot of basically acts of sexual violence towards her. The context is important in the sense that they're not between two people who are consenting and into it. They wouldn't necessarily be violent acts, right?
That's absolutely true, but it's at the in terms of are we being too coy? Should we just are we being too coy by not saying what he said he wanted to do?
Yeah, but let's go for it.
He said, and bearing in mind this is unbidden, this is a telephone call in the middle of the night, he said that he was obsessed with her tits and he wanted to fist her.
Yeah. And so this is basically a situation in which a man, by what I understand by it, is a man exerting, you might say at face value, expressing desire, but very, very just under the surface of that is wielding power, is wielding a kind of a desire to control someone. And how is it that and this is a genuine question, how is it, I don't know whether you agree with that, but how is it that I go from the expression of desire to wielding control?
Yeah, I do agree with you, Simon. I think there is a sense of
how is it that we understand it as being that, you and I?
Yeah. I think we would probably understand it because the body of the listener is rendered object. There's no agency here. Another thing
stripped her of agency.
Yeah, another thing he said to her was, "I want to make you squirt," which again is a singular line of traffic, if that makes sense. It's going in one direction. It's "I will do to you." So it's that kind of,
regardless of what she wants, thinks, feels, expresses.
Yeah. I should say that not in the voice note that you had, but in subsequent conversations, text message conversations, she also made clear that he sent her a series of unbidden images.
Of course he did.
Of course he did.
He's living the dream.
Aha.
Oh my God. We're not talking about how common this is. We're not talking about... We're just talking about as a story, right? And this, something that has happened as a very clear example of what we were trying to get at last week.
And I think also we're talking about, and I think for me, what I'm interested in is the person who contacted you saying, "What were you talking about?" And the person who contacted me saying, "Here's an example of that happening to me." And the gap between listeners or ability to hear, perhaps based upon one's experience of being in the world, because it could well be that the person who contacted you, this mode of behaviour is such an anathema to his...
never experienced it.
Yeah, his way of being in the world that it simply wouldn't occur to him to engage with another human being in such a debasing manner that he couldn't hear what we had absolutely and legitimately, according to his critique, rendered dog whistle. You could only hear it if you knew the code. Whereas this other listener was like, okay, so here's a recent example of this happening to me. And also, and I don't know if this is important to say, but I want to say it anyway. She's 53, and the person who was contacting her was knocking on 60's door. So it feels like this is it's not just the we hear so much about the pornification of society and Generation Z having to negotiate sort of social interaction and interpersonal exchange that is so deeply steeped in a kind of this unbidden delivery of sexually explicit material because of how they have been cooked.
Yeah.
This person is older than the man who did this is older than us. He would have had exactly the same access to pornography that we would have had when we were at a formative age, which is next to none.
You had to really, as we've talked about previously, you really had to go out of your way.
Absolutely.
Or look in your uncle's bedside table.
I never looked at my uncle's
Not mine, not my
table.
uncle. One's uncle. Metaphorical
A
uncle.
metaphorical uncle. I think the only place I ever encountered pornography as a child and as a teenager was like abandoned.
Right.
Like in parks and building sites and things like that.
Right.
I never saw it in anybody's home. So I think, yes, we're thinking about the story, and I'm thinking about I'm also thinking about how it was heard so differently. Next time on Midlifing.
I wonder if there's value in understanding how you and I might imagine getting from one listener to the next listener. How would we bridge that gap, that divide?
I don't think we have to bridge the divide. I think reporting back on these two listeners' experiences of the same episode, it feels
like enough.
It's just been such a salutary lesson in how incredibly diverse our listenership is, despite the fact that I suspect it's not particularly diverse, if that makes sense. It's in that the podcast is called Midlifing. I'm not expecting that it's
big hit
particularly
with
appealing to
the teens out there.
Exactly, yeah. That so.
We really didn't think about that when we named it, did we?